The Trump administration gives Biden the go-ahead. Some familiar names coming to Biden's cabinet, and TikTok teenagers are now among the most famous celebrities in America. Here's what you need to know. Good morning. This is Cheddar's Need2Know podcast for Tuesday, November 24th. I'm Jill Wagner with Carlo Versano. Hey, Carlo.
It feels like a Wednesday, doesn't it?
It feels like a weird week, right? Because it's a short week with Thanksgiving. So, yeah, I struggle to figure out what day it is. A big development to start with in the ongoing drama surrounding the presidential transition. So after Michigan certified Joe Biden as the state's winner, the Trump administration has now formally authorized the president-elect's team to start the transition process. The General Services Administration informed the Biden team in a letter that they could now get access to federal funds and other government resources that they are entitled to by law. President Trump tweeted that he approved the, quote, initial protocols to begin, even as he said he's going to continue to fight the results in court. His lawyers are currently 1 to 35 in post-election litigation.
I saw a joke on Twitter that I bookmarked because I thought it would make you laugh. It said, Biden's won in Michigan so many times he's legally required to change his name to Ohio State. But
I don't know if I like it. I mean, it resonates.
But I thought you'd laugh.
It's
I thought you'd laugh.
My husband will laugh.
Yes. Okay, Mike. Anyway, bookmark that tweet that you mentioned from President Trump. That's probably as close as we're going to get to a concession here. But stay with me for 1 second on the vote certifications, which are now in full swing in states across the country. I wanted to mention this one fascinating thing out of Pennsylvania. Luzerne County, that's outside Scranton, that's the Wilkes-Barre area. So Trump won that county by 14 points, about 22,000 votes. According to Politico, the county election board met the other day, and they voted 3-2 to certify the results. Voting in favor, all 3 Democrats. Voting in opposition, both Republicans. Think about that, right? The Republicans voted against certifying the results that actually showed that their candidate won. That's crazy. This is really, really worrying stuff. We're going to forget about it for the next couple of years because it sort of won't be on the front burner. But I really worry that we're setting up to be in a place that pretty much any election is going to now be contested, or at least just not believed as legitimate by like half of the electorate. I don't really know what more to make of that, but it's definitely another thing that to keep in mind, I guess.
Let's talk cabinet picks, though. President-elect Biden has chosen Janet Yellen, the former head of the Federal Reserve, to run the Treasury Department, according to multiple sources. Yellen was the first female Fed chair, if her name sounds familiar to you. She would also break ground as the first female Treasury Secretary. Wall Street likes this pick, especially compared to Elizabeth Warren. That was one of the names that was being floated for the position, not to mention Wall Street's familiar with her because she was, as we mentioned, Fed chair. Biden also is going to be appointing John Kerry to a cabinet-level role as a special envoy for the climate under the umbrella of national security. The president-elect had vowed to assemble the most diverse cabinet ever, and so far he's on the path to do just that. He's said to have chosen Alejandro Mayorkas as Department of Homeland Security Secretary, which makes him the first Latino and first immigrant to run DHS. And Avril Haines is said to be the pick for Director of National Intelligence, and she would be the first woman to have the country's top spy job.
John Kerry, of course, the engineer of the Paris Climate Accords, which I suspect we're going to be rejoining come January. This is a big one, though. The big thing here, like you said, is that they're not just creating a climate envoy, like a climate czar, but they're putting it under the National Security Council. That's a big deal that I think is going uncovered. What does that mean? It means that, first of all, I think we're finally treating climate change as a national security issue, which I think it is. And also, they're going to be able to appropriate some of our huge defense budget toward climate mitigation issues. At least I suspect that's what they'll be doing by making this a national security job. You know, John Kerry is whatever, but I'm personally thrilled Jill, and I'm making no bones about it, that we're going to live in a country where the president doesn't not only doesn't believe that climate change is a hoax perpetrated by the Chinese government, but actually is going to treat it as an existential threat to humanity that it is. I don't necessarily think that means that Joe Biden is going to single-handedly, solve global warming, but baby steps, right? This is an issue that has basically gone completely swept aside for the last 4 years.
In this country, anyway.
Yeah, right.
Meanwhile, the virus surge that had been centered around the Midwest has now spread virtually everywhere in the United States. So at least 9 states are reporting caseloads that have doubled in the last 2 weeks, including states that had already been through early waves like Arizona, Louisiana, and California. 45 states in all seeing accelerated spread. Here in New York City, Governor Cuomo specifically calling out Staten Island as, quote, a problem, and authorized a field hospital to reopen in that borough. Out west, California Governor Gavin Newsom and his family are in quarantine after they were exposed to the virus. Cases and hospitalizations peaking just as millions of people expected to travel these next few days, potentially seeding the virus in new places as they move around the country.
Cuomo is right about Staten Island. They are a problem, but they're a problem even before the coronavirus. I'm just playing though. I shouldn't say that. We love Staten Island. But Jill, I watched.
But I feel like
I'm just I'm missing.
What
I'm shooting up air balls today, huh? All right. Anyway, where was I? I was going to say that I watched the Cuomo press conference yesterday. I hadn't watched him in a while. So I watched him yesterday. His shtick is kind of getting old, I have to say. He's just very like school marmy about the if you eat too many candy bars, that's how you get fat. Like, what are you talking about exactly, man? But anyway, overseas, I did want to mention Prime Minister Boris Johnson of the United Kingdom, who, by the way, is also quarantining himself after an exposure. He came out yesterday and said that England's lockdown has been working. It's been flattening the curve, and the restrictions there are going to begin to lift next week. Whatever you believe about these lockdowns being infringements of rights or whatever, they work. They do what they're supposed to be doing. So that's important to remember. They had been, England had been seeing serious rise in cases, and that's now starting to flatten out.
I'm just still kind of giggling at what you mentioned about Cuomo. I'm with you. I think his shtick is getting old. He actually, we didn't mention this yesterday on the podcast, but he won an Emmy for those initial coronavirus briefings. Yeah, that just happened over the weekend. He got an Emmy for those coronavirus briefings early on in the pandemic, which were must-see TV, right? I mean, he really did communicate what was going on. And at that point, I don't know about you, but I was not leaving my house. I mean, everybody was just stuck home, and his briefings were must-see TV that everyone tuned into. I watched his briefing from over the weekend because he did one, and I think it's weird. It almost feels like he wrote that book, right? I think he took a victory lap too soon. He wrote a book about how he handled the pandemic, and where I think it feels like he's underestimating how nervous New Yorkers are right now. I mean, at least I am personally. I'm like petrified about the next few weeks, and he's taking kind of like a weird. This is what happens. You gain 5 pounds over the holidays. We're going to see a rise in cases. Like, he's almost, and I guess he's doing what he can in terms of restrictions and whatnot, but his tone is not correct. It's like an annoying, not funny. Just tell us the information, guy. That's all we really want to know. Totally. I'm with you. I turned it off. I was just irritated because I wanted real information and I wasn't getting it from him. And I feel like he's failing to realize that he did a great job, right? Early on, you could argue, at least on the back end of the outbreak, but kind of like take it seriously now again.
I think that we're all just, Jill, we're all in such a different place than we were in the spring. Like, this is now so old. We're all like, amateur epidemiologists and, virus experts now. It's like, yes, give me the numbers. Tell me what the situation is. What are the new restrictions? What aren't they? He couldn't even answer questions about what's going on with the schools. He started to rip on one of the reporters that was asking him the other day. I don't want to stay on Cuomo any longer, but Yeah, it's just like the shtick is old, dude.
Okay, so you mentioned climate change a little bit ago in the podcast, and perhaps the biggest indicator yet that the business world is moving on from the Trump administration. General Motors has reversed course and said that it would no longer support the White House's efforts to ban California from setting its own emission rules. So GM pulling out of this lawsuit with the EPA and urging other automakers to do the same. The company recently said it would increase its spending on electric vehicles by 35%, just as President-elect Biden expected to heavily promote EV sales.
Yeah, this is my favorite genre of corporate announcement, just purely opportunistic. Now that the last guy whom we buddied up to is gone, we have had an epiphany, and now we're going to run our business in such a way that is amenable to the new guy in charge. Look, one thing that's going to happen on January 20th is a lot of pointless political lawsuits that are winding their way through our courts are going to get dropped. This being one of them. So I mean, they're making sort of a big stink about this, but this lawsuit wasn't going anywhere. But the bottom line has always been, I think, Jill, that these automakers, I think that they realize that the future is electric, and they got to figure out how to get there, right? I mean, look at Tesla. Tesla hit another record high yesterday. I don't even know what that stock is doing right now, but it's unbelievable. This is no longer just a fad, right? And these guys like GM, they were way late to the party, so they have a lot of time to make up. Right.
So GM joined the lawsuit. Ford and Volkswagen did not. So it was kind of split. And the only thing I'll say, though, is, not that I agree with these companies for being opportunistic, as you say, and changing their ways now, but they are businesses, right?
Sure.
There is a whole industry around it that's called lobbying. And these companies are for profit. They do have a fiduciary responsibility to shareholders, to their employees. And in the case of climate change, we've actually seen a lot of companies, from big tech to the banks, saying that they're going to invest in green technology or green companies. But beyond the press release, I'm not sure how much of a difference any of it makes. Like Amazon, which has made this big stink about making its delivery fleets greener, and then packs a toothbrush in a cardboard box the size of my house to deliver it to me. So again, it's the private sector which is driven by profits. So do you think, in all honesty, right, do you think Nike and any of these other companies that have come out on the side of social justice reform and the like would be doing it if they thought it would hurt their bottom lines?
No,
I mean, their Colin Kaepernick jersey was one of the best selling of all time. So they know it's what their customers want. I'm not trying to be like Miss Skeptic here, but this is what they do. They're businesses. They make calculations based on profits and what they think is going to drive sales. So I can't hate on a company for trying to have a good relationship with Trump while he was in office as much as I'm not going to hate on them for trying to have a good relationship with Biden. It was the president who was setting the tone there in terms of emissions. So.
I guess I just never really, in this particular case, I just never really understood why they joined that lawsuit to begin with. Because
it was pretty short-sighted. I mean, it's clear where things were going. It was short-sighted, but this is just what goes on.
No, that's.
Okay, moving on. Less than a year after TikTok star Charli D'Amelio hit 1 million followers on the viral video app, she's now crossed 100 million followers. This is an exponential rise for the relatively ordinary 16-year-old that underlines the power behind TikTok. The app has become so popular, now Snapchat is copying TikTok with a new feature that uses an algorithm to surface videos that are going popular in real time.
This is one of those things, Jill, that I feel like because I'm like an old fogey now, I don't have my pulse on it. And I'm sort of I'm sort of being left behind because this TikTok thing is astounding. I mean, when you think about that, 1 million to 100 million in less than a year, that is phenomenal. And this girl, Charli D'Amelio, she's just like you said, she's just like a regular girl, right? She's not like a celebrity in any other way other than that she has this organic following. It's phenomenal stuff. But again, I'm not a TikTok user, but everything that I've read is that they have this real time, what you just said about their real time algorithm, that is the key to their success, right? They have this algorithm that is constantly changing and tweaking itself as people watch these videos and then surfacing videos in a way that people find it nearly impossible to stop watching. I'm sure if you're listening and you have a teenager, just ask them and they'll tell you this, right? It's like a personalized television channel. One way to think about it, like if Facebook's news feed was like the gateway drug, like the weed, TikTok's algorithm is like the crack, right? Just in terms of how easy it is to hook people on it. But what's also notable about the Snapchat thing, Snapchat says they're going to shell out $1 million a day to creators of the top performing videos as an incentive for some of these smaller accounts to put out, creative, high quality content. So these people are actually going to start getting paid. I mean, this is a legitimate industry now, whatever you think about it, these sort of video social media creators. It's legit. But I just remember when Snapchat was sort of the cool kid, right? The vanguard social network. And now it's taking its cues from TikTok. It's funny how fast these things change, right?
It is incredible. I don't know. I'm with you. I feel like I'm not really I'm not on TikTok, so I'm not really sure. I'm not even on Snapchat. I have an account, but I don't really do it.
I wouldn't even know how to use it.
I've seen younger kids weirdly though on Instagram.
I thought Instagram's over. I don't know. We're so old now.
I think basically every social media platform is just copying the other. So Twitter now has fleets.
Oh, we hadn't talked about that.
Which we haven't even talked about. Fleets are basically like Instagram stories, which was a copy of Snapchat. Right. Those stories from Instagram were originally copied from Snapchat, and now Twitter. And I'm losing my mind because a lot of people that I follow are just posting the same content on their Instagram stories and their Twitter fleets. And so I'm just like, where have I seen this half-eaten sandwich before?
I don't like that at all. Twitter is like its own separate thing. Don't mess with that. It's the only social media platform that I use. I don't want it to get messed up, even though it's already complete.
Okay. Finally,
mess.
though, 2020's hottest holiday gift is. I guessed it yesterday. I thought it was going to be an air fryer, but apparently it's a chessboard. Netflix's smash hit, The Queen's Gambit, has spurred an explosion of interest in chess, which was having its own mini renaissance during the pandemic anyway. Google searches for chess through the roof. eBay says searches for chessboards up about 300%. And chessboard makers have confirmed sales have spiked. Netflix also says Queen's Gambit, now its most watched original limited series ever, with about 62 million households watching that series in its first 28 days.
Well, everybody, if you've listened to us long enough, you know that one of our Need2Know golden rules: never believe anything Netflix says when it comes to their viewership numbers, because they do some real fuzzy accounting when they put that data out. I think they count a watch as if you have it on for like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's not to say. I mean, I'm sure the show was a huge hit. I haven't seen it. It's clearly had some cultural significance.
Oh, you didn't watch Queen's Gambit yet?
No. Is this one of the ones that you've
I've watched it. It's great. Highly recommend.
Who has time? I don't have time for this. Plus, I'm very into The Crown right now, and I'm all Crown all the time. Wait, can I just read you, Jill? I'm sorry to do this. My favorite tweet of the last month.
Sure.
This is from Lionel about Queen's Gambit. Queen's Gambit is when you move to Queens to save a little money, and then you spend the rest of your life there.
Funny.
Come on. Okay, maybe that's only funny to New Yorkers. I'm dying today. Whew, help me out.
No, I didn't know where you were going with it. I was waiting. It's very. You know what? I'll tell you why that fell flat on me. I thought you were gonna do a Coming to America. I thought it was gonna take a Coming to America spin. You know, because he goes to Queens. Yeah. Eddie Murphy's character moves to Queens to find his queen. Whatever. Okay, before we go, we wanted to wish a very happy birthday to Piper, who is one of our avid listeners, and she emails us and always has just great things to say. And we know it's been a tough year, but 30, Piper, is a really big milestone, so happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you, Piper. Thank you for listening, and thank all you guys for listening.
Yes, we very much appreciate it, and that is what you need to know for Tuesday, November 24th.
Bye, guys.